Well, welcome back. If you've seen the first two videos, you know that I kind of started in the middle, and well, with pianos, that's where you start. If you're tuning, you start in the middle, because it's the easiest place to get reference notes. And here we have basically what you need. If you had to go really light and you had to throw something in a bag, and if you had a go bag for tuning pianos, not fixing, not repairing, no voicing or straightening or lining hammers or anything like that, if you just wanted to tune a piano, this is what you need, and this phone. Because on this phone is, any phone, I have a Peterson tuning app. So I didn't describe what you needed to tune. So here we have two mutes and tuning hammer, preferably with a star tip. It gives you a lot of better options. You can get one with a regular square tip. I think it's the number 2 is the basic size. But if you get a square tip, it's only 4 positions you can have. So you're better off having, I think most have star tips, only a really old one would have this basic square tip. And this is a temperament strip. Now, I don't use one. I've never used a temperament strip. Some people don't drink, some people don't smoke. I don't use a temperament strip. But I'll show you how it's supposed to work. Strip, they use the purpose, a temperament is a group of octaves, a group of notes, an octave of notes, where you first set the pitch, find the pitch to which the whole piano is going to be related, and that's internationally known as 440 vibrations or hertz per second, and this is a 440. At least it's supposed to be. Sounds like that's it. So what you do is, first, using a temperament strip, you mute off the left and right string, leaving the center string to ring. Now, I'm doing this with one hand. I'm holding this. I'm not really fancy. The purpose of these videos is oral, so you get to hear what you're supposed to do. So most people have someone else shooting and maybe a tripod. I'm low budget. I'm just doing this out of love, so this is the way. And not that I'm, like I said, I don't do this, not that I'm versed, but if you do use a temperament strip, you want to leave space. I can't do it with one hand. I'm not going to try. You want to leave space so that the center string rings and the left and right string are muted. And you do that for a whole octave, 12 notes, and it goes through. And some people use the temperament strip all the way through. I do not. I don't do that because, well, this is a small piano and it's a pain. What I do is I use these two mutes. We'll take the A440 again. There it goes. And say I was looking for the pitch. I put a mute on one side, and then you put a mute on the other side. Now, I have the luxury of tuning a baby grand. So if you have an upright, it's a little bit more difficult. But the person I'm thinking about has a baby grand, and well, I want to help that person out. So maybe straighten out a note or two, and then you would again hit that note, and you would look at your Peterson tuning app to make sure that that is centered on 440 in whichever way you decide to look at it. You can be displayed in hertz or cents. Cent divides the frequency by 100. So for every, so A440, 4.4 hertz would equal 1 cent. And I was trained to tune so that all three strings, if you were in the middle section, or the majority of the piano has three strings, so that all three strings are within 1 cent of one another. Now I try to go for a little bit sharp, maybe one or two, but I try to look for the number 0, or you look for the bars to be pretty much still. If you've seen other tuning apps like TuneLab, the bars go along horizontal, and when they get close to still, your note is tuned. These go on a vertical, and use the strobe, and it's just awesome, just an awesome app. So what I do is I go from note to note, and I never use a temperament strip. Like I said before, I go from note to note, find the center string, match left to center, then right to center, and recently, I wouldn't call it a pitch raise because it's not a full pitch raise, because a pitch raise is when you go through all of the strings and you check the frequency on each one. I just played each key. On my most recent tuning, I just played each key near the center of the most used portion of the keyboard. My tuner tech likes to call it the middle of the road. And I tuned anything that was 3 cents off, plus or minus 3 cents. I corrected it and went on from there, because I'm not a professional. I've been doing this for 10 months. And pitch raises take time. You're supposed to do the whole thing at one time because of the shifts in pressure. There's anywhere from 18 to 20 tons of pressure created by all of these strings going over all of those hitch pins. And whenever the weather changes, because the instrument is primarily made of wood, unless you got one of those really expensive glass pianos. So when the weather changes, like here in New York, it gets cold, and when it gets below 45 degrees, the heat comes on, so it warms up. So I get changes. That's the reason I got this piano so cheaply, because it's 51 or 52 years old, and the pin block is not as good as it used to be, sort of like me. The pin block is what holds the tuning pins. It's several layers of laminated wood, like plywood, so that the pin holds snugly. And if you want to look at my pin block, you can see some of the tops are rusted, and there is a spill. And I think this particular piano has the issues that it does because it was near Far Rockaway, and that's not too far from you. This is not right on the ocean, not per se, but it's not too far. I mean, that's where the airport is, John F. Kennedy International, in here in New York City. Okay, I just kind of wanted to clear up a few things I didn't mention in the previous two videos, and when a note is out of tune, one of the strings doesn't have the same frequency as another, or two strings create an incorrect interval, because at the end of the bass break, last 9 or 10 notes, I didn't count, there's only one string. After, then the rest of the bass break, looks about equal amount, have two strings, but they're copper wound, and the winding changes as the pitch rises. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that the little band of rust. Those little bands of rust is what happens when you put your fingers there. They contain oil, so you do not touch strings with your fingers. If you wanna use gloves, you can. But if you want to keep your strings nice and shiny and corrosion free, that's what you need to do. Okay. All right, I'll remove these mutes here. Okay. All right. So you may have heard me mention beating. I'm trying to remember what I said. I didn't take notes. Beating is when two notes clash. They're not going at the same frequency. Luckily for me, I just hit these C's, and they sound pretty decent. That is C2 and C3. And if you want to identify notes, now, okay, I have to explain this. If you hear a clicking in this piano, it's because probably a few coins fell inside. And you say, well, gee, what are those coins doing there? Well, I decided, I play horses, and I decided that every time I made a deposit, I would make a certain amount of time playing piano. And I'd spend more time playing piano than I did last year, if I made a lot of deposits. So you want to end that. But each penny represents 1 minute that I have to spend at the piano in those dimes there. Well, I had so many pennies that they didn't stay on the cheek block. They fell into that space here, and even on that space there. Now, that side's January, and this side's February. And I've got a jar under this bench, and even pennies there for January. It was a very, very rough month. So lots of practice. And the practice includes this tuning. Let's see if we can get a little focus there. Okay, there we go. So if you hear some clicks in the bass, that's probably it. Okay, what have I also said? Beating is when two notes clash, and beating isn't necessarily a bad thing because it helps you determine how well the piano is pitched, tuned. It's like, oh, we'll get back to that. I just wanted to give you your how you get around on the piano and identifying which notes are which. Uh, this is the first A. The lowest A on the piano is A0. And there are only sharps when tuning, no flats, no inharmonics. So the next note is A sharp. After that comes B. A sharp 1. After that, no, let me start again. A0, A sharp 0, B0. I did hang on a lot. B0, and then C1. Okay, this is C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and the last C is C8. Okay. Getting back to the beating. How beating isn't necessarily a bad thing. Now, when you hear beating, I don't really want to know that there are two bad notes here, but let's look, because I know they tune everything. Let's try these Fs. Okay, you hear that lack of focus? Okay, that's slow beating because the notes are they're so low. Okay, A. Okay, we work back. We know that this is this note here. This is that should be A0, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, as in 440. So the way the math in Western music works is that every octave, A4 to A3, the frequency doubles. So this is 440, this is 880. Okay. There's a lot more math to that. So a lot of it, but we won't go into that now. So when you have a perfect octave, I hear a little beating here. Looks like it. You hear? Okay, I tuned those A's earlier, and they're a little out now. But this would be 440, and this would be something else, a little bit higher or lower. Yeah, that extra sound you hear, it could be a little better, and that's beating. But the way you because the frequency doubles from one octave to another, the relative distance between intervals creates a beating. And as you go up the keyboard, it should increase uniformly because that's how the harmonic series works. It works in doubling. So if I were to play this C, it sounds like it might be out, and this E, you hear that beating. But this C and this E should sound a little bit faster. And the next pair a little bit faster still. My tuner called me to try to make an appointment because he comes from far away, exactly just a little bit further away from actually where this piano, the original owner, was. And it's a long train ride. He's like me, he doesn't drive. Well, not now anyway. I don't drive, period. He used to. He doesn't have a car. Well, his girlfriend does. And we got to talking about how I was tuning my piano, and I was telling him about some type of problem, and he told me to play third, and then he told me to play a tenth. He said ninth, but it's actually a tenth. I can't reach that. You're not gonna hear me do that. Okay, this way. All right, just sorry about this, but here it goes. And then he had me start all the way at the end and work all the way through playing thirds. And well, it wasn't great because a lot of things shifted because the temperature was going up and down. He says, don't feel too bad. You know, there's the humidity, barometric pressure, everything is happening. Everybody's piano is going in and out. I'm busy. So, if you live in a nice place like California, where the temperature doesn't go from snow to maybe 45, 30, 40 degrees higher during the year, well, actually, it's more than 40 degrees. 60, 70, 80 degrees. You don't have 70 or 80 degrees shifts and great shifts in humidity or a lot of humidity or very, very dry. You live someplace in California, your piano is going to be pretty decent. But I hear about a place somewhere in like Virginia. It's bad news. Just bad news. So, to wrap things up, I think I covered everything that I wanted to. I didn't mention. I showed you the equipment. Showed you the hammer, tuning app, and temperament strip, and a screwdriver. You know, put the strip in, and basically that's it. Have fun.